Welcome to this tutorial. Today we are going to be looking at computer generation. If you haven't shared the page with a friend, when you go back to Facebook, you share the page with a friend so that they can also access this useful information. So today we are going to be looking at computer generation. First, we're going to look at the definition of computer generation. This is the state of improvement in the development and advancement of computer technology over years. So computer generations change over years. So after we looked at the definition of computer generation, I'm going to go to the first computer generation. And first generation computers were general purpose computers that used punched cards and magnetic tapes for input and output, and used vacuum tubes as their active elements. So we are going to have a look at an example of the first generation computer. So this is how the first generation computer looked like. It was very huge. It was filling a full room. So after looked at that, we are going to look at the examples of the computers in the first generation. We had the electronic numeric integrator and computer. This is its short form. We had the electronic delayed storage automatic computer. This was its short form. And we had the universal automatic computer, and this is its form. So take note of the short forms because they are normally asked. So after I've looked at that, we are going to look at the characteristics of first generation computers. They used vacuum tubes as their active elements, so they used vacuum tubes in their processing of data. They used a lot of electricity and generated a lot of heat. They were large in size that they could fit in several rooms. As you saw, the computer, it was really big, it was fitting in one room. They used punched cards and magnetic tapes for input and output of data. They could run one program at a time and were generally slow. So if you have to compare, if we were still in the first generation, how things could be running. So they were also expensive, and terminals could be rented. So you could not have the full computer, you could rent some parts of it in order to have a full functional computer. So after I've looked at first generation computers, we're going to be looking at also second generation computers. The second generation computers were smaller in size compared to the first generation computers and used transistors as their active elements. So these ones, they changed in their active elements, the technology changed and they put transistors, which were a little bit smaller. So this is how a second generation computer looks like. So compare this to the first generation computer. The first generation computer was occupying a full room, but we are having our second generation computer just a piece of wood here. So we are going to look at the characteristics of second generation computers. First characteristic, they use transistors as their active elements. So they use transistors in their processing of data. They used less electricity and generated less heat. They were smaller in size compared to the first generation computer. As you saw the images, the first generation computer was in a full room, but the second generation computer was just on a table. They were less expensive compared to the first generation computers. On top of first generation computers being expensive, they had also to first rent some terminals. They used removable magnetic disk packs as their storage devices. They led to introduction of high-level programming languages like Fortran and COBOL. They led to introduction of supercomputers. So having looked at that, we're going to look at third generation computers. Third generation computers used integrated circuits, which were smaller compared to transistors, and they were directly embedded to the computer system board. This is how it looked like. We're going to look at the characteristics of third generation computers. They used integrated circuits as their active elements. So they used this one's integrated circuit in their processing of data. They were smaller in size compared to the second generation computer. As you saw the second generation computer and the third generation computer, they were faster and used the parallel processing technology. They led to introduction of programming language like beginners all-purpose symbolic instruction code, that is BASIC. Beginners all-purpose symbolic instruction code, that is BASIC in full. They led to introduction of computer networking. So we're going to look at the fourth generation computers. Fourth generation computers used large-scale integrated circuits and very large-scale integrated circuits, whereby a special IC could contain a loop of up to 10 million transistors, and used microprocessors as their active elements. So they used microprocessors in their processing of data. This is how it looked like. This is the fourth generation computer. I think these were the computers. I think most of us, we saw these fourth generation computers. We never had a chance to meet the first, second, and third generation computers. All of us have been seeing the fourth generation computers. So we're going to look at the characteristics. They used microprocessors as their active elements. They used microprocessors in processing their data. They were smaller in size, as you saw, compared to the first generation, to the first, second, and third, and they were very fast and reliable. The late introduction of software, e.g. Windows, became relatively cheaper and affordable in the fourth generation. So they led to the development of intercomputer communication. So after I've looked at that, we're going to look at the fifth generation. Fifth generation computer is under development with a main electronic component based on artificial intelligence. This one means they could behave like people, and they will use the ultra large scale integration technology and parallel processing method, the advanced parallel processing method. So that was computer generation.